Welcome back to The Count. We're counting down the major stories of the week. I'm Logan Raddick, and now we're moving on to story number 3. A little something we're calling the Chicago Shuffle. Another big business is shuffling out of the Windy City, and that would be Walmart, planning to close half its stores in Chicago, reversing a pledge to expand in the Windy City as part of its 2020 racial justice initiative. The retail giant announced it will close 4 out of 8 stores after losing tens of millions of dollars a year at locations in the south and west sides of the city. Now, they say it's no longer profitable to operate in those neighborhoods. Walmart said, quote, "As we looked for solutions, it became even more clear that for these stores, there was nothing leaders could do to help us get to the point where they would be profitable." Unprofitable is really the code word for crime. There have been multiple shootings in Walmart parking lots and a plague of shoplifting that is spiraling out of control. To top it all off, lame duck Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot had this to say, quote, "I'm incredibly disappointed that Walmart has a strong partner in the past has announced the closing of several locations throughout the south and west sides of the city. Unceremoniously abandoning these neighborhoods will create barriers to basic needs for thousands of residents." Perhaps Lightfoot thinks Walmart is a charity. And joining me to discuss this is Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, a company that provides research about the city, and Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith. She's a former Chicago area police officer and spokesperson for the National Police Association. Ted, we'll start with you. Walmart says it's a profit issue. Now, is this code word for crime? We know it's probably not cheap to rent there, but the shoplifting has to play a factor, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly does, but it's not just shoplifting. The property taxes are high. The crime is tremendous. The city's in the dysfunction. People have been leaving. So it's it's real tough to do business in Chicago right now. We saw Citadel leave. We saw Boeing leave. Caterpillar's left. So it's tough to do business right now. Lori Lightfoot made a huge mess in Chicago, and that's why she got kicked out after one term. But what's worse is that we got Brandon Johnson coming in, and he's going to make Lori Lightfoot look like a conservative. So he's warned about corporations creating poverty and crime. He's warned about raising taxes on corporations. So if you're worried about anything in Chicago and you got a tough business, you're going to pull out because it's just too hard right now.
Betsy, you've spent years doing police work in Illinois. Do you blame Walmart for its decision? And what's the solution? We're seeing businesses close down in several Democrat-led cities. What's the solution that they can use to prevent people from looting? I mean, is this really just blue cities are out of control and these places are giving up on them? But also to Ted's point, when you replace Lightfoot with a more liberal mayor, I mean, are these all factors here?
Well, yeah, they are all factors here. I mean, when you eliminate this retail from the south and west sides, I mean, Lori Lightfoot is right. That is going to leave people without a good retail resource. But why are they going to be without it? Because of the crime in the neighborhood. How do you get rid of crime? This is not rocket science. We did it in the 90s. We've got to go back to letting the Chicago Police Department do their job. And then when they arrest people, the prosecutor's office, Kim Foxx's prosecutor's office, has to prosecute these crimes to the fullest extent of the law. Because you know what? The people on the south and west sides deserve to have safe neighborhoods. They deserve to have good, low-priced retail. But you know what? Brandon Johnson, Lori Lightfoot, and Kim Foxx don't really seem to care about that. They want to blame corporations. They want to blame everybody else but the criminals. It's time to let the Chicago Police Department do their job. And we're hopeful that Brandon Johnson is going to appoint a Chicago police superintendent who is pro-police, anti-crime, and pro-citizen. Let's put some people in prison. They won't commit any more crime.
Ted, what's even crazier right now is that you have Walmart leaving Chicago because they're losing money, there's crime. But the Democrats have now chosen Chicago as the site of their 2024 convention. This will be their 11th time in Chicago. You may remember the 1968 Democratic convention. That year, protesters practically burned the city down. 11 people were killed, 48 wounded by police gunfire, 90 police officers injured, 2,150 arrests. Want to get your thought on their choice to bring the convention to Chicago amid this spike in crime, but also with a more progressive mayor coming in?
Well, I think it's a fascinating decision, and if I were them, I wouldn't do it. But I think for the rest of the country, it's good because everybody in the rest of the country should see the kind of policies that they put in Chicago and in Illinois. It's made a mess of this beautiful city. If you're a proud Illinoisan right now and a proud Chicagoan, you're struggling right now in this state. And when you look at what they've done, for example, we've passed a no bail law. No other state has passed a more extreme no bail law in the country. We look at giving our union powers the most powers in the country. The Chicago Teachers Union, everybody knows that the most militant union in the country. We've passed a green energy bill that threatens brownouts. Just 1 in 20 black kids can read at CPS, can do math at CPS at grade level. We've made a mess of this city and this country, and the rest of the country should know just how failed these policies are.
Betsy, you think Chicago will be a tinderbox for that weekend of the DNC convention? Is that something they should be preparing for violence, for unrest, kind of like what we saw in 1968?
Well, I can tell you they're already preparing for it, but it depends on what's happening at that time. You know, things change so quickly, but you can bet that where they are holding this convention is going to be so sheltered, so locked down, so buttoned up that the crime that is rampant in the city of Chicago is really not going to touch the attendees. It's not going to touch the politicians. And remember, they're all going to be protected by people with guns. Even though, you know, Chicago constantly talks about more gun control, and it is one of the most gun-controlled cities in the country. I think that this is a nod to J.B. Pritzker, the very far left governor, and I think it's also a nod to this new mayor that they're bringing in. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I got to tell you, it's going to be very taxing on the members of the Chicago Police Department who are already short-staffed and overworked just trying to keep the city safe now. It's going to be a real burden when the convention comes to Chicago.
It really is a shame to see what's going on there. A top 3 city. Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, if I could add one more thing. What's fascinating about all this crime and all the attention it's gotten across the country is this year alone, after 11 years of leading the country in homicides, for Chicago, leading the country in homicides, crime is up 45% this year already over last year. So nobody's even thinking about tamping down on crime. They talk about root causes and all those things, but nobody's doing a thing to tamp down on crime. So we're up 45% over last year, which is fascinating.
Ted Dabrowski and Betsy Bretner-Smith, thank you both for being here. Yep.
Thanks, Logan.
What was that, Betsy?
That's one of the reasons I left.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.